and next thing you know, this thing's gone.
Group to this peak in a group, and then they'd all take off.
The vastness of space has always captivated mankind, leading it to ask, how can such a vast universe have only us as life?
It goes below his aircraft, and he feels a bump under his aircraft.
Our planet is a source of constant wonder and mystery, but it is what lies beyond which fascinates us the most. Ever since recorded history, tales and images of alien life forms on Earth keep cropping up and tantalizing human love for drama. But in the modern world, the stories which have the stamp of approval from scientists are considered authentic, of which we will share 20. Number 1. Aliens found in Mexico. Scientists have a refreshingly fresh perspective regarding the possibility of alien life. They openly accept it. In September 2023, Jaime Maussan, a Mexican journalist and longtime UFO enthusiast, appeared before the Mexican Congress with proof of alien existence, complete with 2 highly preserved alien bodies. The alien carcasses had been discovered in Peru near the pre-Columbian Nazca lines in 2017 and had been presented to the media then. As he presented the evidence, the mummies could be clearly seen to have humanoid features which were offset by their retractable necks and elongated skulls. The bodies were unusually lightweight, with a robust skeletal structure. There were no teeth in the jaw, and the hands had only 3 fingers. His claim could not be rejected out of hand, since it was backed up by a team of doctors who had run comprehensive tests on the bodies, including X-rays and DNA testing, which concluded that the bodies were genuine and contained hybrid DNA. Although the claims were dismissed by many as a publicity stunt, the fact remains that 11 researchers from San Luis Gonzaga National University in Ica, Peru, affirmed that the carcasses seemed genuine. But the most conclusive results were that of the carbon dating conducted by the National Autonomous University of Mexico, which suggested that the bodies were 1,000 years old. But the next incident is undeniable proof of alien existence. Number 2. Oumuamua visits the solar system. While the thought of alien bodies fascinates us, how would news of their spacecraft visiting us be received? That's exactly what happened in autumn of 2017, when a small object came from interstellar space and passed close to the Sun as it traveled through our inner solar system. This was a huge development, since for the first time, our solar system had been breached by an object coming from beyond it. Very aptly named Oumuamua, a Hawaiian word for a messenger from afar arriving first, it was discovered by a Hawaiian telescope, Pan-STARRS 1. Oumuamua excited the scientific community immensely because it was unlike a comet, since it lacked a gaseous head called a coma, or a tail of gases following behind. Its dimensions increased the mystery as the 6:6:1 ratio revealed that it was pancake-shaped. Though interesting, it was the way it moved that stunned scientists. Oumuamua's trajectory was different from comets, which revolve around the Sun in closed loops. Instead, its path was hyperbolic, as it came hurtling toward the Sun so fast that the Sun's gravity could bend Oumuamua's path only slightly instead of capturing it in a looping orbit. Its speed was calculated at 16.36 miles per second, which helped it keep moving until it exited the solar system. Oumuamua might have left our system as quietly as it came, but it left a lot of unanswered questions behind, as did the next incident. Number 3. Encounter in Chile. While some governments might be secretive and not amenable to answering those questions, the Chilean government has no such qualms. In 1993, the Chilean government decided to take matters into its own hands and instructed military personnel and air traffic control to form a committee with the sole task of investigating unexplained aerial phenomena that have become a common occurrence. Not a moment too soon, as in 2014, Chilean Navy officers flying off the coast of Santiago captured video of a flying object with a plume of smoke following behind. Flying at 4,500 feet with clear visibility for 9.5 minutes, it gave the officers plenty of time to identify it, but it was unlike anything they had ever seen before. Number 4. Take control. This incident shows that Chile is not the only country with a rich alien encounter history. Mexico has come on the news more than once. Take, for example, what happened to pilot Carlos de los Santos in May 1975. As he was returning to Mexico City after dropping off his passengers at the seaport town off the Pacific coast, Carlos expected a peaceful ride back to town on that clear, uneventful night in his PR-24 Comanche. 1 hour into his flight, he noticed a wingless gray object cruising on his left wing side. He looked to the other side and saw another object cruising along, but as he looked forward, he saw another one aiming straight for the nose of the plane, but it flew under his plane and he felt a bump. Within moments, he realized that he had lost control of his plane, which seemed to be steered by the unidentified object from under his plane, and they seemed to be taking him along for a ride to much higher altitudes his plane was not designed for. Just as he seemed to lose the fight, the objects abandoned his plane, and now he realized he had another battle on his hands: how to land his plane with damaged landing gear. Using a screwdriver, he was able to manually manipulate the gears into dropping and barely made it to the ground with his life. Number 5. Japan on target. Carlos's story resounds with what has been reported in another part of the world by local pilots time and again: Japan. Incidents of planes being overtaken by alien technology have been reported by Japanese pilots. One of those was that of a student pilot who lost control of his fighter jet to a cigar-shaped object flying nearby. But these stories had been repeatedly denied by the Japanese government, which went so far as to release a statement in 2018 denying any alien encounters have ever occurred in Japanese airspace. But this changed dramatically in September 2020 when Japanese Defense Minister Taro Kono instructed personnel to make video recordings of any unexplained encounters. This shift in policy seemed to center around his meeting with his U.S. defense counterpart, Mark Esper. Both officials accepted in a press conference that the topic of encounters with unidentified foreign objects had been discussed, and the conclusion reached that there is a greater need for cooperation in this regard. This was rightly taken by all people concerned that there had been intense, suspicious activity going on in the space above Japan, which had to be scrutinized. Number 6. Alaskan Skies. It's hardly surprising that the US and Japanese governments would approach this phenomenon with the same policy. The US government has been denying it has proof of alien encounters, even though its best and brightest professionals have been sharing such stories. Take Pentagon pilot Theo Chesley, for example. Flying over the Alaskan airspace in October 2019, he saw this shape in the sky. It had a cloud around one end and a tail of wispy smoke forming on the other. It seemed to stop mid-air and turn vertical, where it stayed stationary for a good amount of time. While it hovered there, an object seemed to fly out of the volcano, and he could see a green sphere emerge in the midpoint of the mountain. Meanwhile, the vertical object seemed to change shape, as if something had flown through it. The sheer amount of detail of the incident speaks for its authenticity, since the video doesn't lie. If it's hard to believe the word of a Pentagon pilot, would you trust the US Navy? Number 7. The US Navy comes clean. Times are definitely changing when the US Navy officially releases footage of UAP encounters with pilots. This is a video made from the cockpit of a Navy fighter jet of the nuclear aircraft carrier USS Theodore Roosevelt while it was flying the skies above the Florida coast off the eastern seaboard. Now, anything flying in the sky would grab a pilot's attention, but this object's flight was too different, which made it noticeable immediately. The unidentified aerial object was flying at a very low altitude, but its abrupt and high-speed movements were unlike any technology made by mankind. The video was released amid claims by professionals and experts from the Navy that it was only the tip of the iceberg, since the Navy was sitting on a mountain of recorded data of UAP encounters. The claims proved to be true, since undeniable proof started to trickle out, but soon turned into a deluge, as you will see from the next footage. Number 8. The US Air Force has a common visitor. Professionals belonging to all manner of fields are opening up on this topic. Like Luis Elizondo, who was an intelligence officer conducting missions around the world until he was invited to join the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, or ATIP. The group was established to comb through data like that shared here to assess the threat to national security. And the data is alarming, a view shared by former Navy pilot Lieutenant Ryan Graves. He was witness to a slew of UAP sightings with his F-18 squadron once it updated its radars, the new technology making it possible to spot previously hidden UAP movements. Interestingly, in 2014, these movements were concentrated over a restricted area southeast of Virginia Beach. High-resolution photographs of UAPs taken in 2019 are too clear to be brushed off, and the Air Force has stated that it is unable to explain the images. Similar incidents have been recorded by personnel on board U.S. Navy warships like this one. Number 9. The USS Omaha Incident. In July 2019, an incredible tale played out in real life, which was witnessed by countless Navy personnel on the USS Omaha, a real event that has become the stuff of legends. The video of the long encounter was captured by a Navy aircraft and recorded in the USS Omaha's Combat Information Center at the same time. It showed a spherical object flying above the ship before shooting directly downwards into the ocean, where it disappeared with a splash. The video footage showing the radar screen also recorded the comments of the sailors in the background, saying they heard a splash as it hit the water. It showed how advanced would be the technology required to withstand the G's being pulled by the UAP. The maneuvers it was doing were far outside the capability of any known human technology, like hovering above the ship for long periods, abruptly changing course, and last but not least, plunging from air to water in a matter of seconds. This could only mean one thing. This UAP had the technology of flying in the air and transitioning to water abruptly, making it a USO, or unidentified submersible object. But as the next series of events shows, our views of UAPs are about to take a drastic turn. Number 10. A Navy fleet in observation. A series of events began on March 30th, 2019, when a whopping 8 unknown objects were spotted by the sailors of USS Harper's Ferry, flying at an altitude of 500 feet. This was followed by another event on April 24, 2019, this time involving the USS Zumwalt, which identified 6 objects flying overhead in the same area, moving up to 138 knots, which is more than 158 miles an hour, with winds of 31 knots. The same thing happened on July 15, 2019, when the USS Paul Hamilton is alleged to have been followed by drones for 4 hours. The USS Bunker Hill reported being followed by 11 objects. Meanwhile, the USS Ralph Johnson reported 14 drones surrounding it. On the same day, the USS Omaha was swarmed by several UAPs for several hours as they encircled and hovered above the ship. For 2 hours, the ship's sensors picked up intense activity above it as it sailed the ocean west of San Diego. A self-illuminated sphere at least 6 feet in diameter cruised by the ship, its movements recorded by the thermal sensors on board. But these details were observed and experienced by 8 other ships sailing alongside as a part of a fleet for 3 days. If we were looking for contact, it doesn't get clearer than this. Number 11. The Tic Tac UAP Incident. It's incredible how much clearer things have become since the advent of new technology. For example, in the case of USS Nimitz and its accompanying smaller missile cruiser USS Princeton, it set out to try out its brand new radar technology during exercises on the coast of New Mexico in November 2004. The state-of-the-art cruiser was decked out with a highly advanced radar system which had been picking up on hundreds of objects around it for several days. At first, it was dismissed as a technical glitch, but restarting and recalibrating made the objects even more clear. It was clear that this could not be brushed off, as the operators later described the sight as if snow was falling from the sky. These objects could climb to 80,000 feet, which was too high for any jet or commercial airliner to fly. They could also drop to ocean level within seconds and could change direction at a moment. 2 jets were immediately dispatched to the new coordinate. Pilots Alex Dietrich and her commanding officer, David Fravor, a decorated Top Gun pilot, described the water churning and foam forming on one spot around a large metallic object the size of a 737. They next saw a giant oblong object, very much shaped like a Tic Tac mint, flying 164 feet above the waves at extremely high speed, changing directions at breakneck speed. It changed course abruptly and started following along the 2 jets as if mirroring their movements. Another ace pilot, Chad Underwood, was dispatched in his jet to investigate the object using his highly advanced infrared camera. He picked up on the object 20 miles away, and video footage from his camera, titled Flyer 1, clearly showed the oblong object. The objects were oblong, white in color, 25 feet long. It was traveling at such high speed that it didn't leave a sonic boom or a heat plume or trail, indicating no propulsion system, indicating the disparity between technologies. Number 12, they've reached the Antarctica. But it's not only the space above the oceans that isn't safe, even the Antarctic has become suspect. The news coming from McMurdo Station in Antarctica, a research station located on the southern peninsula of Ross Island, will make your hair stand on end. The station was opened by the US government in 1956 and houses around 1,200 residents. A US Navy flight engineer who served with the Antarctic Development Squadron approached a reporter, Linda Moulton Howe, in January 2015 and reported seeing 3 spherical flying objects while on a routine mission with his crew. The objects moved as a team, darting from mountaintop to mountaintop as a group before darting away. But it was what happened on a medical emergency flight that was the strangest. They had to fly through the no-fly zone to save time when they came across a 200-meter diameter home in the ice with a slanted entry into a deep abyss. As soon as they flew over it, they lost all control and their plane started malfunctioning as long as they were in its vicinity. But Antarctica has been in the middle of controversy as far back as 1946, as the next story shows. Number 13. Expedition to Antarctica. In August 1946, U.S. naval officer and explorer Admiral Edward Byrd, the first pilot to fly over the North and South Poles, organized an expedition to Antarctica named High Jump. With 13 ships, 23 aircraft, and 4,700 military personnel, making it the biggest expedition ever for that destination. The expedition was set for 4 months starting in January, and the main goal was to investigate sites for setting up an army camp. The record of his extraordinary find is only in his diary, which was found by his son after his demise, and is not a part of the official reports he gave. According to his diary entry, he and his fellow pilots had found a large cave opening on the South Pole, which they flew their planes into. As they flew under the South Pole, they came to a crystal city with complete flora and fauna above the ground. They were surrounded by UFOs at this point and made to land where he met the leader of an alien species. He was informed about how disappointed they were as they observed humans developing nuclear weapons and destroying Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Such stories might seem fanciful meanderings to some, but the conclusive proof of alien technology shown next cannot be denied. Number 14. Traces of alien technology. You see, in 2023, a team of scientists led by Avi Loeb, an Israeli-American theoretical physicist who studies astrophysics and cosmology, studied the particles of a meteor that landed in the ocean near Papua New Guinea. What they found were tiny spheres made of interstellar metals. They scraped off magnetic debris 2 meters into the ocean floor and studied them under a microscope. What they found was that the material these marble-like pieces were made of was harder than any meteorite or space rocks ever discovered. Another fact that makes these fragments one of a kind is that the meteorite-like shape that had entered Earth's airspace had been detected by government sensors before exploding over the Pacific Ocean's surface like a small-yield nuclear explosive. But how easy is it to investigate such materials? Number 15. Alien material under the microscope. Not easy at all, it seems, as this incident shows. In 1957, a fisherman in Ubatuba, Brazil, saw a glowing orb fly through the air and shatter with an explosion. He collected the pieces, and a couple of decades later, two scientists got their hands on them. One of them was Gary Nolan, a Nobel nominee and a professor of pathology at Stanford with an extensive background in genetics, microbiology, virology, and cancer biology. When he started investigating anomalous materials from UFO crash sites, he was warned that it could destroy his career. He continued to work with Jacques Vallée, a computer scientist and astronomer, on these shards recovered from the site. They found that the magnesium particles could not be naturally made, but they had been manipulated in a process to knit them together into one material. Coming into physical possession of material never seen before is a miracle in more ways than one, since video evidence can be dismissed like this one. Number 16. The Aguadilla case. In 2013, the local airport at Aguadilla, Puerto Rico reported UAP movement, and a U.S. Customs Enforcement aircraft was dispatched to investigate the activity. Equipped with sophisticated infrared camera technology, the aircraft made a detailed video of a curious little craft with no rotors or wings, moving at high speed in multiple directions. The authentic video, made by a Homeland Security aircraft, was dismissed by the Air Force. The video shows the object flying over the ocean before disappearing beneath the waves without a splash. Suddenly, two objects appear from under the water, or were they two? When the video is examined frame by frame, it becomes clear that it's not two objects, but one which seems to have split into two. This is another proof of underwater, unidentified submersible objects recorded, but are there more? Number 17. It goes deeper than that. Underwater UFO activity has been increasingly reported in the last 4 decades, a lot of it around Alaska. Alaskan waters are so deep that they're the perfect place to hide an alien base. Stories originate as early as 1945, when an Army transporter ship named US Delaroff was passing by Adak, one of the Aleutian Islands, when a seaman saw foam appearing in a circle on the surface of the water. The astonished crew watched on as a large circular object emerged from the water, hovering in the air without any obvious propulsion system. It circled the ship a couple of times before it shot past it into the sky. The crew did write a report, which mysteriously disappeared, yet the same type of incidents are happening in other parts of the world, like Russia. Number 18. The Russian experience. This story came from Siberia in 1982, when Russian Navy divers were conducting research in the 1,642-meter-deep Lake Baikal, the deepest natural lake in the world. At 50 meters depth, they realized they were being watched. They saw humanoid entities that were larger than the average human, with some sort of headgear and metallic silver bodysuits. When they tried to capture one, they were propelled by a strong force rapidly to the surface, which is deadly to humans. The rapid ascent bypassed the acclimatization protocol, and 3 of the 7 divers passed away due to it. The matter was hushed up by the Russian military, but one fact remains universal: alien sightings are most common on the water. Number 19. Under the sea. The Mariana Trench in Puerto Rico is a part of the Bermuda Triangle and the deepest part of the Atlantic Ocean. It is also home to many planes and ships which have disappeared into its depths, which is why it's also called the Devil's Triangle. That's exactly what happened to the USS Cyclops, which disappeared in this triangle in March 1918. It sailed from Brazil to Baltimore with 309 crew members who disappeared without a trace, and what's even stranger is the fact that he never left a Mayday signal. Such incidents have occurred regularly. Combined with the number of USO sightings there's speculation that there might be an alien underwater base there. And since the Bermuda Triangle is too far away, now evidence from bustling cities is emerging too. Number 20. To the cities. Pacifica, California became the center of attention on September 6, 2022, when an innocuous security camera pointed at Maury Point recorded something extraordinary in the sky. While the video shows nothing but a sleepy, picturesque town nearing sunset, the orb of light which suddenly appeared in the sky would have made anyone watching sit up. The light seemed to move quickly in different directions. This would be the point one would conclude that it's just a drone, but this sudden descent at high speed, before it glowed brightly and shot into the horizon, proves that it was anything but a drone. We might have been aiming for the stars in trying to break our boundaries, but it seems our space neighbors may have taken the lead on visiting. Join us next time for another edge-of-your-seat ride as we take you on a new journey.